So I take it Senator Cruz and Cotton are seeking 3-minute rounds. Is that correct? All right. And Senator Booker as well. Senator Booker.
The October 4th memo reads, in recent months, there's been a disturbing spike in harassment, intimidation, and threats of violence against school administrators, board members, teachers, and staff who participate in the vital work of running our nation's public schools. Is that true?
Yes, sir.
I mean, it is true.
It is true.
I have a list of very disturbing incidents. In Texas, a parent physically assaulted a teacher, August 18th, 2021. In Pennsylvania, a person posted threats in social media which required police to station outside of a school district. Law enforcement investigating the person. I could keep going. Ohio, a school board member was threatening a letter that began with, "We are coming from you." Domestic terrorism in the United States, sir, has it been more from overseas radical terrorists since 9/11 or more from homegrown terrorists, most of them being right-wing extremists? Which has been greater since 9/11?
I want to be careful about that. The threats that we face with respect to terrorism, and none of those descriptions have to do with terrorism, but the threats that we face in the United States come both from foreign terrorists.
A church
and
in South Carolina, a synagogue in Pennsylvania, a school, Parkland, a school, Newtown. Has there been threats and violence against schools in the United States of America?
There have been, yes.
Coming from what types of groups?
Well, they come from domestic groups.
From domestic groups.
Yes.
Has there been a long, pages-long list of what my staff could grab, been threats and violence against school officials in the United States of America in the last year?
I obviously haven't seen the list, but it accords with my recollections.
Well, let me accord your recollection with the letter that I've heard so much about that I pulled it to read it. You say literally, spirited debate about policy matters is protected under the Constitution. I'm quoting one of my colleagues today. Does that sound like harassing and intimidating moms and dads? You affirm at the top of your letter that spirited debate is allowed. While spirited debate about policy matters is protected under the Constitution, that protection does not extend to threats and to violence that we have been watching on our TV screens. Intimidating people, threatening to hurt them, taking physical action. But you know what? You did not call for the DOJ and the FBI to monitor school board meetings, did you?
No, I did not.
You did not call for anyone to evoke the Patriot Act, did you?
No, I did not.
Sir, what you called is for the DOJ to convene meetings to discuss strategies for addressing those threats.
That's correct.
Is that intimidating moms and dads going to school board meetings?
I can't see how that could be interpreted as.
Sir, I know something about law enforcement intimidation. It stems from growing up as a black man in America. I know what it feels like to be pulled over, to be accused of stealing things. To every time I drive over the George Washington Bridge as a teenager, to know I had to put extra time because I was being pulled over by law enforcement. If someone's to read the actual letter, you are literally saying, as the leader of the highest law enforcement office in the land, that you protect spirited debate. That you think, though, given the climate of school violence in America, I've met with victims from Parkland. Mr. President, I'm sorry. I have watched Republican after Republican go over time. And I know you're gently banging that gavel, but I've watched all today. My colleagues violate what you said at the beginning was a strict time limit. And I would ask you to afford me 2 more minutes.
Is there objection? No objection.
Have you met with Parkland survivors?
I met with survivors at the White House.
Yes or no?
I think
You've met with survivors of school violence.
I met with the Parkland families.
Yes. Do you have a responsibility in a climate of threats and violence taking place at schools, do you have a responsibility to convene strategy meetings to try to make sure we do not have eruptions of violence in the country? Is that a responsibility of the federal government?
Yes, our job is to protect Americans.
Did you specifically say anything in this letter, that can be seen as harassing moms and dads and parents, or did you explicitly say that the Constitution protects spirited debate?
I specifically said the Constitution protects spirited debate, and I don't believe there's anything in this letter that could be read to intimidate mothers and fathers.
And I'm not talking about the outrage machines that seem to fuel our politics on both sides. I'm talking about the actual letter here, sir, that you wrote. You're a good-hearted person. Is there anything in this letter that could specifically lead a good-hearted parent who is against mask mandates, who somehow believes that the teaching of racial discrimination is repugnant to them? Is there anything in this letter that would prevent them from going and speaking to it and yelling and being upset and letting their elected officials know what they really believe? Is there anything in the actual print of this letter that could be seen that lead to that type of intimidation?
No, Senator, all of those things are protected by the Constitution.
Will you say that one more time?
All of those things are protected by the Constitution.
I hope that you will do your law enforcement work. There's too much violence in this country. There's been too many domestic terrorist attacks. I don't want to have the next hearing here be about some incident. I hope that you continue to convene your strategy sessions to protect parents and children and school officials from any kind of the heinous violence that we have seen way too much of in this country, and that we all bear a responsibility for stopping. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the allowance of the extra time.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Cruz.